Hi, friends, welcome to the Bible Project Daily Podcast. You're very welcome, and you're joining us together as we work through the entire Bible, chapter by chapter, verse by verse. And today we're in closing off Genesis chapter 19, and we've been considering together, this story of Lot and his family and the events around Sodom and Gomorrah. And I'm calling today's little study, How Might the Mighty Fall. Now, I'd remind you that if you've just joined us for the first time in this amazing journey together through the Bible, you have a couple of options. You can either go back to the beginning of season 2, where we begin the working through the Bible verse by verse proper, which is around about episode 70. But if you're new to this whole Bible study thing, maybe consider going right back to the beginning, episode 1, where you'll find a series of 66 short podcasts, 6-minute podcasts, which give an overview of each and every one of the books of our Bible. But today we've arrived at episode 223, which is part 154 of our short episodes working through Genesis. And we're finishing off Genesis chapter 19, I said, and I'm doing that by asking the question, how far is it possible for believers to depart from God's will when they put themselves in the wrong decision and they keep making worldly decisions under a worldly influence? Well, here at the end of chapter 19, we find Lot has lost his son-in-laws. They've been destroyed and killed in the destruction of Sodom, and he's ended up living with his daughters in a cave, who have come to the conclusion that the only way they can now continue the family line is through an incestuous relationship with their father. So in terms of how far they can fall, we can fall pretty far then, isn't it? You see, as a result of his worldly drives, he has lost his children. Remember, son-in-laws, they didn't leave Sodom, they died with the destruction of that city. He lost his wife, who looked back with regret and yearning, and now he's lost his 2 daughters, spiritually anyway. He was able to take his daughters out of Sodom, but he was not able to take Sodom out of his daughters. So even after he's escaped, he now is entangled in this spiritually incestuous web. This is an echo for us, a reminder at one and the same time of how terrible things that went on in Sodom and Gomorrah must have been, because even after escaping it, the wickedness and its influence has remained within his family. The dangers of living in the world is, of course, potentially losing your life by getting into destructive habits, but it's not just talking about a danger to your spiritual life. It can, we see from this, be a danger to your business life, your family life, your social life, your spiritual life, and you know what? Even your eternal life. The story of Lot and his family provide a sobering reminder that our decisions, all of them, can have eternal significance. This is a very sobering thought. Even the decisions appear to where you choose to live, where you choose in a sense to spiritually pitch your tent, can be hugely important. They chose the wrong place to live right at the beginning, somewhere where he knew there was no godly influence, and that was the beginning of Lot's downfall. Lot early on clearly knew the Lord. In fact, but in Peter's writings, he was described as a righteous man, as once being a righteous man, but he became isolated from other people that knew the Lord, and that city heavily influenced him and his family. This tells me that our moral environment significantly influences our lives, and for this reason and many others, the New Testament constantly implores believers to have fellowship with those who are like-minded. We are called to meet with other Christian believers. We call that the church today. So my recommendation is to you, if you're not part of it, find a Christian community that believes in the Bible and share and join with them in partnership in their work. You see, where we choose to pitch our spiritual tent, or even where we live, is hugely important because of the effects it might have on us and our family, and even the future generations, it seems to be telling us here. Now, I want to be clear, this is not like some new age curse. Every individual through your family and through the generations will make their choices in free will. But if you create an environment where you are not seen to be obeying the Lord, not existing, pitching your tent, if you like, spiritually within that place, then how much less likely is it that your children will come and maintain and continue in a godly influence? And how you can easily look down the generations of the family line and see a scenario where they don't know or care or even acknowledge the existence of God. Now, a while ago, I read an example that I think illustrates this aspect wonderfully in a devotional book that's published here in the UK, but I believe it's available around the world. It's called Our Daily Bread. It's a short daily devotional that's issued every 3 months, which gives you sort of 2-minute little studies to encourage you on your Christian walk. And I remember a very vivid story about a Christian man who lived alone with his 3 sons. Now, one day a strange dog appeared at the house, and it seemed to be in rather poor condition, but it arrived at the door, wagging its tail, friendly, but looked like it was lost. And the dog was very distinctive because it had 3 white tufts of hair in its tail. So the man and his sons, they took it in, and they cared for that dog, and they grew to love that dog very quickly, who really sort of ingratiated himself and became part of the family. But a few weeks later, an advertisement appeared in the local paper asking to help find a lost dog and return it, and the dog was described as being easily identified by the 3 white tufts of hair. There's my dog barking in the background, obviously he's excited by this story. Now, the children loved the dog, and the man said in his presence that they would keep the dog, and they would do that by plucking the white hairs and removing them from the dog's tail. Now, the real owner heard that from one of their neighbours. He was contacted to say that one of their neighbours had recently taken in a dog, and so he came over to claim his pet. Now, the dog indeed did seem to recognise the owner, but the man said, "Didn't you say in your advertisement that the dog had 3 tufts of white hair in the tail?" The answer, of course, was yes, and since the hair was missing, the man was unable to claim the dog. That man later said, according to this article, he said, "We kept the dog that day, but I lost my 3 boys for Christ that day." As he explained, writing years later, that his sons from that day forward no longer had any confidence in what he said, because what he preached didn't match what he practiced. So never, ever underestimate the effect of your spiritual decisions, not only on your life, but in the effect also it might have on your family and their descendants. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you found that helpful. We've closed off chapter 19, and we'll pick up next time where we look at Genesis chapter 20, and we'll try and draw over a series of studies some help in how it might teach us on what to do when things appear to go wrong. A quick reminder that there's always a text of each and every, a script if you like, of each and every one of these studies contained within the episode notes of any audio version of this podcast. Now, if you happen to be listening to it in a video format, then there's a link through always in the episode notes through to the audio version of the podcast where it's hosted on the Buzzsprout website, and within that you'll find an episode notes page with links but also a transcript of the full talk. So anyway, that's it for today. Thank you for joining me on the Bible Project Daily Podcast, and I hope to see you back here tomorrow or very soon, right back here. Bye for now.